I wanted to create that tutorial for a very long time because I still remember how difficult it was back in the days to find a nice and suitable for beginners tutorial. I'm Ivan and today I'm going to show you how to create a really simple room in 3ds Max and Corona renderer from start to finish. I will kick off the tutorial with modeling. Then we are going to create the camera, lights, materials and finally render it. So let's dive in. As I mentioned in the first part, we are going to model the room and add furniture and props from different places. Keep in mind that this tutorial will cover only the absolute basics from the poly modeling. The first thing that I would like to do when I open 3ds Max is to go to the Customize category and set the units I'm going to use. There are two types of units here: system units and display units. The system units are internal in 3ds Max and display units are the units that are going to be used for the size of the geometry, for example. In other software, there is one place to set them, so the most important thing that you should remember here is that the settings should be the same in both categories, centimeters in my case, but you can set it to inches as well. You will notice that when you open 3ds Max, we have 4 different viewports by default. I will change the layout and use just 2, one for modeling and working and one for the camera view. To change the layout, navigate to the Views tab and choose Viewport Configuration. Here in the Layout tab, I can choose between these options, and when I click OK, the one I like will be applied. The top view will be located in the left viewport and the front view on the right. That is not an issue because I can easily rotate the view from the 3D wheel or by pressing simultaneously Alt plus middle mouse and move. Also, by holding the middle key mouse, I can drag the viewport to the left or right, as well as scrolling the middle of the mouse to zoom out or zoom in. Before I start modeling, I need to create layers. That is very important if we want to organize our work, especially if we have a huge scene. Click on the layers icon and the Scene Explorer will pop up. From the plus button, I will create a new layer and call it Geometry. Here, I will add child layers. To do it, while the geometry layer is selected, create a new one. Call it Walls, Floors. The next will be Windows. To rename it, you can just right-click and choose Rename. In the same way, I have created a few more layers. The good thing with the child layers is that you can hide all of them from the main one. I can enable the layer by clicking on its icon in front. First, I will model the walls, so I will enable the walls layer. Before we move on, I will dock that window to the right. Okay, now I'm ready to start modeling. To do it, I will create a base shape, box in my case. This will be the initial object for the room. Usually, for poly modeling, the modeler starts with a simple object and through different approaches, he reshapes it to the object he wants. From the Create panel, I will choose the box option. Just hold the mouse on the viewport, drag and release to specify the height. With a left click, we can finish the creation. I also want the object to be in the middle. Click on the Move tool and place it approximately in the middle of the grid. To move on, I will need more space on the viewport, so I will expand that one from the Maximize viewport in the lower left corner. I can do that with a simple shortcut as well, Alt plus W to maximize or minimize a viewport. You will also notice that the geometry is presented in the viewport as lines. To have it shaded, I will just navigate to the wireframe and choose Default Shading. Also, I can switch between both of them with the F3 shortcut. If it's set to Default Shading, we will not see the edges, which is something crucial for the modeling. To show them, just click F4. Probably you will notice that the grid here is too distracting. To hide it, just click G. I know that there are a lot of shortcuts and it can be overwhelming at the beginning, but I recommend you to remember these. Let's see the settings of the box. If I select it and go to the Modify tab, we can see the dimensions of it. Also, from here, I will define the size of the room. Then, to start reshaping it, click the right mouse button and find the Convert to Editable Poly option. From now on, we have an editable poly and we will lose the parametric dimensions of the box. If we take a look at the settings of the poly in the selection, we can choose between vertices, edges, borders, polygons, and elements. I will enable the polygon selection by pressing on the rectangle icon here or by pressing 4 on the keyboard. Now I can select different faces and manipulate them. Select the upper face of the box and the bottom one simultaneously by holding Ctrl. Then, from the Edit Poly properties, I will choose the box in the right of the Inset option. As you can see, this option will insert a face inside the face, and here we can type the offset number which will represent the walls. Make sure that the bottom polygon is still selected and press OK. The next step is to bridge the inserted faces. Great, we have the walls of the room, but there are no openings for the windows or walls. Let's create some. To do it, we will switch to Edges and select one horizontal. From the Ring option, I can select all parallel edges in that segment. After that, I will connect them with additional edges to define the width of the window. Click on the box next to the Connect option in the Edit Edges tab. Then we can define the number of connections, the distance between them and the offset of one of the sides. We can also move it depending on the position we want. You will notice that the lines here are not perpendicular as they should be. The easiest way to make them would be to move the line inside until it's parallel to the one outside. But to be able to do it perfectly, we need to activate the snapping option. Right-click on it and choose what to snap. Then, in Options, make sure that Enable Axis Constraints is enabled. As you can see, for the snap, I'm using vertices and midpoints only. Another way to enable the snapping is to click S. I will move it to the right to the point that it will be parallel with the other line by moving it to the X-axis. Do the same with the other vertical edges. Okay, the vertical lines are parallel. Let's also create two connections on the other wall to make the door opening. Click on one horizontal edge, then Ring and Connect. Click OK. Again, make the edges parallel. Now we have the vertical line that will define the width of the window and the door. We also need to specify the height of them, so I will need two horizontal edges. Select an inner vertical edge as well as one of the outer faces. Click Ring again, connect and find the right place for them. Then choose the polygon option or click 4 and select the faces for the window and the door. Just like with the floor and ceiling, we will bridge these faces with the bridge option. To go out of the poly mode, click 4 again or click on polygon selection. I've just noticed that the door height is too big, like for a giant, so I'll select the polygons, click W for the move tool and shift down the upper face of the door opening. Click again on the polygon option to go out of the poly mode. Okay, now we have the wall with the openings and it's time to make the floor. Since it will be a face, I will go to the Create tab and choose Plane. Rotate the view to build the floor and click S to activate the snapping. Then drag, hold and release. To make the window, I will use the box option from the Create panel. Drag and hold to specify the dimensions and release to specify the height. Since the snapping is on the box, I will fill the window opening perfectly. To keep my file organized, I will move it to the Windows layer. Right-click on the box object in the layer window, pick a new parent and choose the Windows layer. Convert the box with right-click Editable Poly. To start, I will form the ledge. Again, I will create a connection and move it close to the bottom, this time for the ledge width. Switch the mode from edge to polygons and select the work face outside and inside. Now click on the extrude. Okay, the ledge is done, so it's time to put some work on the window itself. Select the faces outside and inside of the part that is left above the ledge. To shape the other frame offset, choose inside from the box on the right of it. Here, you can control how much to offset these faces. I think that 5 cm will work fine here. To define the inner frames, I will extrude that, but this time in the opposite direction. Probably we'll see the result better in the top view, so click on the wheel or just click T. Then, to go to wireframe mode, click F3. In this view, we can decide how much to extrude the frames. Once we are ready, click OK. The next step is to create the inner frames. I will want a window like this one, so I will have to separate that face to many faces and then inset them like we did for the main frame. To do it, I will make some connections. Let's do it. Once the face is separated, switch again to polygons. You will notice that the previous selection is still active, although we separated it. To form the inner frames, here I will use the inset option again, but offsetting all the faces as one. To insert them separately, choose Inset by Polygons. Here I will type 3 cm, thinking that this will be enough. Bridge them. Okay, now we have the frames. For the glass, I will just use boxes, but I don't want to be distracted from other objects. Currently we don't have a lot. However, if it's a huge project, it will be difficult to focus on one object. So I will isolate the selection. Click on the box in the Create menu, activate the snapping again by clicking S and create the box. Go to the top view and to fit the selected object, click in that little box in the right corner. To reduce the thickness of the glass, I will disable the snapping because I will not snap to anything. Click R for the scale. Then copy that glass with snapping on and move to the middle point of the next frame. Make 3 copies. Attach them and copy the new object vertically. Attach all the glass parts. We can rename the object in order to have a more organized model. Click again on the Isolate button to show all. We can create the door as we did with the window, but this time I want to use the ready one from a free library. Click on the Chaos Cosmos button. Corona Render will ask if we want to make it the current render. Choose OK and our web browser will open. Sometimes we get that message depending on the browser we use. I will continue because I believe chaos are OK, and here it is. This is the Corona and V-Ray library of ready-to-use 3D content. As we can see, it is separated into different categories But this time we need a 3D model, architecture, and from here we can choose a door. I will import that one. If it's not downloaded, you will see an option to download it first and then import it. Also, we could have downloaded a window directly from here. However, I think that it's a good idea to know how to create a very basic one in Max. After they are imported, we can close Cosmos and find the right place for the door. To rotate it, I will click E, or click on the button here and choose an axis for the rotation. But as you can see, we are rotating without snapping for the degrees. To rotate the object with right degrees, click here or just click A. Then rotate on 90 degrees. Unfortunately, the door width is not the same as the wall, so in that case, we can tweak the door geometry or the wall depth. Since it's a simple tutorial, I will do the second. Enable the vertex poly mode and move the vertex to change the wall width. Let's also change the height of the door opening. Then populate the interior with more objects from Chaos Cosmos. Now, I want to have a panel on the wall to make it more interesting. So I will just create a box, convert it to a poly object and fit its size and position in the room. Okay, we have our room. Just one thing is missing, the ceiling. Copy the floor plane. Before I move on, I want to organize my layers again because I want to easily hide different objects at any point. Also, it's a good idea to save your models from time to time. We can search for objects not only from Chaos Cosmos but also from the web. First, I will hide the ceiling for easier navigation and then I will download WAMPs from that website, 3D Sky. From here you can download free and premium 3D objects. I love that website because here you can find a lot of different Corona models and no, they're not sponsoring me. It will be downloaded as a zip file, so it should be unzipped on your hard drive. Let's see how to import it in our project. Click File, Import and choose Merge. Find the unzipped file and select it. A window will pop up with a list of the objects in the file that we want to import. If you don't know which one is the one we need, just click All and OK. Now the WAMPs are imported. They might not be a group or attached object. That is why I will move them outside of the building while they are still selected. We have more than one model of WAMPs in the downloaded file, so I will just select the one I like and place it in the right place. I also bought a model of a pampas grass, so I will import it as well. Place it again in the model. If some of the textures on the imported objects are missing, click Shift+T, select the missing textures of the object you have imported and relocate them. Now the room is modeled and we are ready to go with the second part of the tutorial, where we are going to create the lights, materials, the camera and everything else. If you have found the first part of the tutorial useful, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the second part of the tutorial.